He's known as the expert on breakups and divorce. He can use specific behaviours to predict if a couple are going to break up. Hello, Delphine here, and we're going to be digging into more questions to ask your significant other before pursuing engagement and eventually marriage with this person, your person. So in the series so far, we've talked about everything from money to intimacy to difficult situations. And today we're going to talk about conflict resolution, the Christian edition. So how should you be fighting? How should you be resolving things? All these questions are really helpful to know, even if you've not had a fight yet, and God forbid you won't ever have any bad arguments, but you are going to have some sources of conflict, so it's good to be able to really pin down how you guys will resolve them peacefully. So number one, how should Christians fight? We should fight differently. We should always be building up the other person and only using words that truly encourage them. So we shouldn't be, critiquing, belittling, all these things, right? We should always be operating out of love and charity for the other person. So there's a huge difference. So it's good to kind of identify those things in your relationship. And then super interesting, you might have heard of Gottman's 4 Horsemen. So John Gottman is a psychologist, and he's known as the expert on breakups and divorce to such an extent that he can use specific behaviours to predict if a couple are going to break up. And he calls them the 4 Horsemen, so it's in reference to the Bible, obviously. And what the 4 Horsemen are, so they're 4 different types of behaviour, which most lead or predict a breakup, is criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. So really interesting to know what comes most naturally to your partner and to you. Can you get into a mode of just critiquing everything, criticizing, being really judgmental? Or can you really, operate from a place of contempt and resentment where you're just like, oh, I can't even be bothered with you? Or do you have, a tendency towards defensiveness? Well, I know I didn't do it, but I'm really busy. You could have done it. Or are you just a stonewaller? I'm not dealing with this. I'm going to give you the silent treatment. I'm not going to communicate. So it's really handy to identify. And to be honest, there's probably going to be times when you're going to flip-flop between them. But if you're able to really see it and to try to go above that and to act out of charity and love as we should do, rather than, criticism, contempt, etc. So it's a good thing to also be able to see the family of origin, what did they see from their parents? So really interesting to ask. So I talked about, fighting as Christians and how that should look, and that we should be building the other up with our words. And I heard this amazing example. It was apparently an actor who was on a film set, and someone overheard him on the phone, and he said to his wife, I really disagree with you about this point, but I love you and I can't wait to work it out with you. And I was like, that is just so beautiful. So it's I disagree, it's fine. We are humans, we're different people, we are individuals, we're not marrying ourselves. So of course you're going to disagree about things, but it was a reminder that we have this love, we love each other, and I'm looking forward to working through it with you. So that's just a really nice way. That is the ideal way that a Christian should, or anyone, resolve, disagreements. And in marriage, how do you perceive handling disagreements with your spouse? So again, this is going to go back to those kind of 4 behaviors. Are you going to try to resolve it? Are you going to want to sleep on it? Is one of you going to want to go for a walk and get some air? Just talk about how you think that you're going to be able to resolve disagreements and work through them. And then just more personal questions, how do you argue with others? So it might be that you talk over people, or you can get rude, or you can get picky or nitpicky. It's good to kind of be able to reflect on yourself, how do you argue? Another question, do you shout? Hopefully you've not experienced that with each other yet, and hopefully won't, but are you shouting in arguments? Do you raise your voice? Have you been told before to not to raise your voice? So it's just a good reflection. Do you not listen to others? So when you're angry, do you just see red? You're like a heat-seeking missile and you're not hearing any other voices. That's a good thing to be able to acknowledge about yourself, or your partner to be able to acknowledge. Do you get quiet and not want to talk? So again, are you a stonewaller? When you're really stressed, or you're angry or upset, are you the type of person who just needs to go into their shell for a little bit and not discuss it? because again, that could cause more conflict if one of you just wants to talk about it and resolve it straight away and the other one needs time to process. So it's really good to be able to identify these patterns and how you guys will move forward with them. And then this question is quite interesting because I guess no one wants to be argued with, but how would you best like to be argued with? So for me, I think I like to be emotionally prepared that someone's going to confront me with something. So it might be a text message, like, again, going back to this kind of actor's template where it's like, hey, I love you, but I really want to talk about this incident that happened. Do you have time tonight? Or do you have emotional capacity? Do you have the resource? Because then it's just like, are you in the mood to talk about it? Are you okay? Is this a safe space? That's personally, I think, how I would like it, because I have a little bit of preparation. Although I probably wouldn't want too much preparation because I'll get nervous. But various ways, like how would you like to be argued with? Do you want to hear, the facts, the feelings, what happened and how it made me feel, and then get to say it? Or do you want to discuss it, back and forth? Like, how would you like it? Another question that's important, would you ever be open to therapy? Again, I think self-improvement is really important and it's a very attractive quality. So it's a good question to ask, and there's different avenues of therapy you can go down, like life coaching or obviously Christian therapy, and counselling and all these kind of things. So I think it's a good point to bring up to see if there would be an openness to it if you ever felt you needed that in your relationship. Another good question is, how do you handle your emotions after a difficult day at work? Are you the type of person who just wants to come in and like sigh and leave everything behind and just need like an hour to yourself to not discuss anything? What do you need when you come home? Do you need quiet time? Do you need affirmation? Do you need prayer? Do you need joint prayer? Or do you need conversation? Everyone is different. So again, great to identify those differences and be able to see if you can respect each other on them. Because one of you guys might be super chatty, a chatty Cathy, and the other one really, quiet and just needs some reserved time to just process and decompress. It's another good thing to think about in terms of how you can disconnect from your stressful work life or, extended family life and not bring it into your marital home. And then how do you react to severe stress in your life? What are your coping mechanisms? Are you a crier? Are you someone who needs to go on holiday and get away from it all? Are you someone who needs to talk it out? Are you someone who needs to talk to a therapist or an outside individual? It's really good to be able to identify these coping mechanisms. And finally, what would you want your loved ones to know about helping you navigate difficult times in your life? I think for me, I would probably need words of affirmation and contact. I would need to not feel isolated. It's something I can do when I'm really stressed or going through times of depression. I can just want to isolate myself socially. I don't reply to texts. I don't make social plans. So something that would be good for me personally is having someone hold me accountable to that and actually, make those plans and ensure that I don't just go into a ball to try to deal with everything myself. So I hope these questions have been really helpful and useful to you. We have had a long series. I have prepared these all for you, but I'm sure there's a million more questions that we could go through. So I'd love to hear, any additional ones that you'd like to add or additional topics or series. So please leave a comment, a like or a dislike if you haven't liked this format. And please subscribe to Salt for more content about dating in a godly way and pursuing holy and happy marriage. And also, if you'd like these questions in a written format, we have a downloadable PDF resource for you, so you can have a read of them. Maybe you can print them and go through them with your significant other. And I really hope it's been fruitful. Know that I'm praying for all of you, and please keep me in your prayers, and God bless you all. See you soon. Bye.